We welcome you into a very special edition of the Final Score Podcast. A special welcome to all of you watching us on Facebook Live. Thanks for checking us out. My name is Greg Swatek, and my guests this week are three members of Middletown's newly minted, newly crowned state championship football team. On Saturday at Navy's Marine Corps Memorial Stadium in Annapolis, the Knights earned a 34-15 victory over Potomac in the Class 2A championship game. It's Middletown's fourth state championship and first since 2013. So with that said, we welcome onto the program. Let's go left to right here. We'll start with senior receiver Brian Walker, coach Collin Delauter, senior quarterback Reese Poffenbarger. Welcome, guys. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
A couple things off the top here. We are taking questions. So if you do have a question for us on Facebook Live, please send it in, and it will be passed on to me. You can ask any of the guys any questions about the season, the game, anything you want. So if you have a question, feel free to pass it on. And audio of the podcast will be available later in its normal spots, fnppodcast.com. You could also get it on iTunes, Google Play, anywhere you find the Final Score podcast. The audio will be available following this Facebook Live session. And lastly, forgive the players here for the way that they're dressed. Coach Delauter, I understand that it was a late reminder from you.
Yep, that was my fault. Yep.
So these guys are fresh from basketball practice. They would have worn something a little bit nicer. They didn't have to get dressed to the nines, but maybe something better than a sweatshirt. But they're fresh from basketball. So excuse the players.
I'll take the blame on that.
You just wanted to show them up. You just wanted to show them up, right, Coach Delauter?
Yeah.
And you were going to be the best dressed one here, right?
If it wasn't for Reese, I wouldn't even be here right now. So.
Yeah, because you have a young infant at home.
But she's a month and a half, so
yeah.
I was doing some babysitting.
Well, let's start right there. Like, what has these last 3 months been like for you, being a new father and coaching a team to a state championship?
It's like I'm living in a dream world. It's amazing. It's like hitting the lottery all at once, and I'm just a really lucky guy, and I'm blessed to be able to be a part of it.
Yeah, Reese, how would you describe the experience on Saturday?
It was definitely a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Not everybody, most people don't have the ability to say that they've been to a state championship, let alone win one. So, just being able to do that and do it with the guys that I grew up with is awesome.
Isn't it the storybook ending to your high school career? Your senior is your last game,
yep.
And you walk off the field with the trophy.
Yeah, definitely. Going out like that as a senior, you really couldn't ask for more.
Right. Brian, what are your thoughts on what went down Saturday?
Yeah, to see all of our hard work unfold from summer, fall, it was really nice, and it's a really great thing to be a part of, especially with the group we had. It was really a family, what we had in Middletown.
Right. This was quite the journey for you guys. The season didn't start exactly the way you wanted to. You guys were 1-2 at one point, and you were sort of searching for the best version of yourselves, mm-hmm. and best version of yourselves as a team. Just how would you describe the trek, Brian, from 1-2 all the way to a state championship?
Well, we always believed that we could get it done. We always believed that we were a good football team, and we did start out 1-2, but our confidence never swayed. We always believed that we were going to get it done, and we ended up winning 11 straight and winning the state championship. So we ended up getting it done.
Right. Reese, why did you go from 1-2 to state champs? You guys didn't lose after that League game.
Yeah, I remember after we lost the second game. The second game, I was extremely frustrated, and I remember I actually sent Coach Delauter a text like, "Coach, what can we do? What can I do to help our team?" And he was like, "You know what? I love that how much you care, but we're gonna be okay. Just keep believing in the coaching staff. It's not like last year where 2 games, you might not make the playoffs losing 2 games." But this year, he was like, just stick to the course. We're going to be fine. And he was right with everything we said. We went off, just like Brian said, 11 games straight.
Before the clock showed triple zeros on that 1-2, the season was already starting to change for the better, though, right? Like, take me to halftime of that League game when you guys made a couple tweaks offensively and really played a great second half against League to get back in that game, and sort of your offense was humming ever since that point.
Yeah, I just remember we met. It was me, Coach Pritz, the offensive line coach at halftime, and we were talking about because we couldn't really develop. We didn't really get a ground game going in the first half, and when you're under center, you got to have a ground game if you're going to want to, get anything going. So we were like, let's just start throwing the ball a bit, see where it gets us, take some quick hitters. Like we were throwing bubbles and hitches, and that stuff was working.
Get the ball out of your hands, right?
Yeah. And, any good coach is just going to do what the defense gives them, and that's what we were doing.
Right. And that's the turning point in the season. Do you look at it that way?
I would say so for like a confidence aspect. As soon as we got back in the game with Linganore, and then Linganore being known as one of the powerhouses, knowing that we could play with them, we knew that we could play with anybody. So,
do you look at that the same way, Brian? Sort of the halftime of that Linganore game was the pivotal moment for you guys.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, our offense, we kind of changed how we were doing things, and our defense held tough. I believe we only allowed maybe 7 points in the second half. But we were really starting to play Middletown football in the second half, and we started believing in each other, believing in doing our job, and we really took care of business in that second half. And it gave us momentum throughout the rest of the season. Yeah,
Coach, you were a player in the state championship game back in 2011 for Middletown. Your alma mater. You're only 25 years old. I mean, is a guy that young supposed to have already played and coached a state championship team?
I guess so. Since I was lucky enough to have it happen to me. Just to kind of piggyback off what both these guys were saying, I actually went back and watched that Linganore game about 2 or 3 nights ago, and I picked up on a couple things that I made notes of back, and really what it was is I think at that halftime it wasn't really so much as X's and O's that took place. I mean, we started throwing the ball a little bit more, but it was really the guys just made the decision we're going to start playing together and we're going to start doing our job. And that's what really propelled us into the rest of the season.
Well, was that missing in the first 3 games, do you think?
Absolutely, and we all talked about that. And it was guys who really wanted to win, and they just didn't know how to win. At least on the defense side of the ball, because they were worried about doing more than what they're supposed to do. And it really took. I think it took a little bit of a shock for the guys to sit back and say, "All right, I just got to worry about taking care of my job, and I'll rely on my teammate to take care of his." And I mean, our defense improved dramatically, I would say, right at that halftime, and we gave up 7 points in the second half throughout the rest of the season. So
yeah, set the scene for me on Saturday, Brian. I mean, you grew up dreaming of playing in a state football championship game. Tell me about the bus ride down. Just what was the scene like, and as you sort of stepped onto the field and took everything in?
I mean, bus ride down, it was business trip. We're all serious, get in the zone. I mean, no playing around. We all came. We all knew what we had to do. And then when we got to the locker room, same thing. Everybody's just getting the right mindset, focus on what they got to do. Warm-ups was very serious, very intense, getting ourselves ready for the game, getting ready for 4 quarters of a battle.
Yeah. When you got there, Reese, what was going through your mind?
I mean, I would agree with everything you just said. For me, I don't think I was expecting it. It really did surprise me when I showed up and was like, just kind of like how big everything was, how different it was from all the high school stadiums we've been in. And for the past 4 games, we've been playing on muddy dirt fields. So it was definitely a change for us. But I mean, we were just used to, doing what our coaches tell us to do, and that was just locking in before the game, and then worrying about what we needed to do during the game. We couldn't be, intimidated by them or swayed by the place that we were playing in, the bus ride down. But, we just locked in and did what we were supposed to do.
What were the nerves like?
The nerves for me, I'm not going to, lie. I was a little bit nervous, but I really was not super – I didn't have any different nerves than I did the week before, let's just say that, because I'm just really confident in our offense because of the fact that we're out there throwing all the time. And I'm not going to, if I watch film all week, I see what the defensive backs' tendencies are, the defensive linemen, the way that, the blitzes, the way they're coming. If I know all that, I don't have really any reason to be nervous other than, maybe playing in front of all those people or playing in a stadium like that. But if you well prepare yourself, you shouldn't be super nervous, but you should always have butterflies because how much passion you have for the game.
Were you nervous at all, Brian?
Oh, yeah, I was definitely a little nervous, because I wanted it so bad, but I was very confident in myself, and I was just trying to get myself in the right mindset to go get the ball every play. Coach put in a great game plan, and we came out and executed. So, the nerves definitely went away when we started playing, for sure.
Yeah. Coach, you've been there as a player. You sort of knew what that experience was like. What was it like stepping onto the sideline as a coach in a game of this magnitude?
Just kind of piggyback what Reese said in 2010 when we played and I was a junior. That was definitely a surreal factor for us as players stepping onto a field that, back then we played in Raven Stadium, and the stage is just so different, and you kind of got to take it in for a little bit. So I think, having that experience as a player helped me out as a coach because, there's always the unknown before you go into a game, especially playing a team that you haven't played before. As we traveled to North Carolina and Elkton and play Potomac, you watch them on film and you see how good of a team they are, but you don't 100% know until you see them in action. And so there's always an element of surprise and anticipation. But I was really confident in the way our guys were going to play, so I was feeling pretty good.
I wanted to ask you about the toughness and the resilience of your team because the 2 weeks prior to getting the Navy, you guys went on the road. You took long road trips, and you played 2 unbeaten teams on the road, and you came out with victories in those games. What do you think the wins at North Carolina and at Elkton did for your group?
I think they were, tremendous confidence builders. I think they were, reassurance factors that we were meant to be where we're supposed to be and that we can compete and play to the best of our ability against anybody. And, as coaches, we were talking all week, man, if these guys can block out the bus ride, the fancy bus, what the other teams got going on at their stadiums and just play football, man, it could really be something special. And sure enough, they came every week and they delivered.
Where did the team improve the most over the course of the season, Reese?
I don't think you can really point out a certain aspect because we had some parts on our defense were weak, some parts on our offense were weak, our special teams were weak at some points, but there was never. There were always positives on all sides of the ball, and then there were negatives, and that's really every week going into the, after a win, or after even more so after a win because you just get to see what you can do better. But I can't really pinpoint something that really improved the most. But I would have to say, if I had to say something, it'd probably be just the way. I'm just to say how proud I am of the way our offensive line battled every single week because you will not find another offensive line that is as small as ours but plays. You won't find a line as big as ours or bigger than ours that plays much harder because even if you just look at the state championship game, they were like 300 pounds across the board. We had 3 linemen that were less than 190 pounds. We had and our right guard's 160 pounds. So
were you sort of sizing them up, like look how big and athletic they look? Before the game,
I knew going into the week that they had some kids in their D line that were pretty legit. They had some kids with offers. They had some kids that could really play, and just on film you could see that. But I just made sure that our linemen didn't know about the hype going into the game, that all they had to do was just get their job done, and they did it. I got sacked once the whole game. So
right. Where did you see the biggest areas of growth with this team?
Just like you just finished off saying, I think our biggest area of growth was everybody doing their job, especially on defense. Because football, obviously, it's a team game, so not one guy is going to make every single tackle, being on every single play. You got to realize that sometimes, like, what you do is going to help set up one of your teammates, and maybe he's going to make the play this time. Right. And I think that was the biggest part.
Right. So the game starts. The nerves are gone. You guys are underway, and I think midway through the first quarter, Reese, you drop back, and all of a sudden, Jalen Husky, your sophomore teammate, is running wide open down the field. Just what did you see? Just take us through that play there.
I was pretty much like sold that I was running the ball, and then I looked up, I saw him, and I had to make the decision. I personally thought I was over the line of scrimmage, so I didn't know if I could throw it or not, but I just pulled up and threw it. I was like, he's wide open. If I don't throw this, I'm gonna look stupid.
When did you see Jalen? Was that wide open?
Literally the last second. I was scrambling out right. I almost made my mind up to just tuck it and run, and then I saw him wide open last second. Tried to plant my feet as quick as I can. I just launched it.
does the thought process then become I can't miss this throw, or are things happening so fast that thought never even enters your mind?
So yeah, that just like you said, it was more of a reaction. I think if I was dropped back and I saw it develop and I knew it was going to be wide open, then it would have been like, oh, he's going to be wide open. I can't mess up this throw. But it was so like bang, bang that I just saw him pull it up and threw it. And he was so wide open that it would have been hard to mess up that throw.
Right. And what did that score do for you guys? Jumping up on top of them right away, Brian?
It was definitely, we got the momentum at the beginning of the game. And we said, first team who comes out, takes the first swing, that's going to be the team that goes and carries that momentum to the rest of the game. And, it was huge for us. It was definitely huge.
Right. Jalen maybe made his biggest impact on defense, Coach. 13 interceptions. There's not a lot of players that intercept 13 passes in a season. Can you just talk about Jalen as a player and just the impact he made on your defense, especially?
Yeah, he did fantastic for us this year. We challenged him week after week, and made a point to put him on who their typically best receiver was, and put him in the situations where it was toughest to make plays. And we talked to him all week long about how you want an opportunity, you got to seize it, and he did fantastic for us. And the other guys in defensive backfield between Gage and Matt Mancini and Cole Porter, they were even more, if not the same, even more as effective as Jalen, because once the teams realized they had to throw away from Jalen, they had to throw into those three guys, which is a very, very tough thing to do as well.
Yeah, Jalen said after the game they just stopped throwing to my side of the field. It was a noticeable change.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of sophomores that play varsity football and contribute on a high level like that. But you have a few that do. Jalen's one of them. What did you see in Jalen that said this guy could hold his own on the varsity level at a young age?
He joined us last year after some injuries. He came up, and right away I just realized how intelligent he was when it came to the sport of football, and how he understood different coverages, different reads, and he just has done a fantastic job for us. And when he makes plays, he gets up and he brings everybody up around him, and it's just fun to watch.
Reese, do you throw on Jalen in practice?
That's pretty much the only guy I throw at, because you got to get him better. Me and him have a really competitive dynamic at practice. We're always yapping at each other, talking crap to each other. So I throw him all the time. I throw touchdowns on him all the time, but he picks me off a lot. So that's going to happen. But I can't say that. He makes me better and I make him better. So.
All right. How do you describe Jalen's personality and just what he brings to your team?
He's extremely goofy. This is like the one way I would describe it. But when it's time to lock in and time to compete, he's ready to go the entire game, every second of the game. So, like Coach said, they were putting him on the best guy every single week. He guarded a Maryland commit, guarded a kid committed to Morgan State, he guarded a kid committed to Pitt.
Jordan Addison.
And he locked him, and he guarded all of them. He wanted every single matchup. It's not like he was shying away from it. He never said he was nervous. I just can't be more proud of him.
Right. And I take it you were matched up against Jalen quite a bit in practice there, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
What were those battles like?
He's a very good corner. He definitely challenged me to try and be the best receiver I can, whether it was pressing up on me and me working on my press releases, or him backing up off, and I've got to try and fake him out. But, definitely having him at corner in practice made me a better player.
How do you feel about your season? You really emerged as one of the best receivers in the county this season. I don't know if a lot of people really knew how good you were coming into the season, but you're a big target. You're 6'5", right?
Yes, sir.
So how do you feel about just your growth and development over the course of the season?
Coming into the year, I didn't even know what to expect. I didn't even play football last year, but
And why did you not?
I was at a private school and they didn't have a football team.
Yeah, were you bummed? Did you miss the game?
Oh yeah, I definitely missed it, and I was very glad to get back. I talked to Coach Delauter a lot over the summer. I was definitely glad to get back. Just get back into football.
Right. And Reese must be pretty nice to have a 6'5", wide out there for you.
Yeah.
They can make plays and stuff like that.
Yeah, especially a guy that can route run, because you see a lot of really tall receivers, a lot of uncoordinated tall receivers, but it's really rare to find one that's tall, runs good routes, and can is coordinated catching the ball and catching the ball and getting yards after the catch. So he's a great receiver.
And you have Jalen too, who gives you an athletic target too out there. So
it's
so
not
two.
And it's not just him and Jalen. It's Matt. It's Cole. It's Gage. It was anybody that we needed to step up. I mean, we had the amount of depth that we had in the skill positions this year was just
Unheard of.
it was really unheard of. I mean, at practice we were just rolling receivers through when we were in team. And there wasn't I didn't favor one side. I mean, it might look like I threw to Brian a lot, but Brian was always open. But when he wasn't open, I threw to another receiver with just as much confidence as I would have thrown to Brian. So.
Right. How is Potomac defending you guys? Because it seemed like Brian and Jalen, these guys were running wide open down the field. Brian, I think you were on your touchdown. I think you were like waiting on the ball to show up there at the goal line. It seemed like, and you were still open, but even waiting for the ball. Just how are they playing you guys defensively?
So I mean, when you play teams down that way in the inner city, they just really trust their D-backs because they think that they're more athletic than us. But
do you think they were surprised to see a guy like Ryan 6'5" and Jalen 6'2", probably, and very athletic? So.
So they were. I don't think they were expecting us to be as good as we were. To be honest, they came out thinking that it was going to be a much different ball game than what it was.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that they thought that our receivers were going to be able to get open like that. And if they're going to play man-to-man with no safety over top and that guy gets beat, then there's nobody else to stop him. So that's why our guys were streaking down the field wide open because, nobody was there to guard him after. Usually a team will put a safety behind to kind of lurk across the field, but a lot of times they didn't even have a safety back there to try and help. So.
Right, and Brian catching a touchdown in the state championship game is something every kid dreams of. You got involved in the game right away. What were those catches in those moments like for you?
I mean, obviously it's a very good feeling. Any touchdown is a good feeling, but if anybody else scores a touchdown, it's also a good feeling. I feel the same way if I score, if one of my teammates score. I just love winning the game. Right.
So you come to Middletown this season, and the quarterback at Middletown is a 3-year starter,
Mm-hmm.
very accomplished, getting some Division I looks. How did that make you feel about stepping into this situation?
That's my guy. I've been friends with him forever. We played football together, basketball together. I know what he's capable of. He knows what I'm capable of. So.
I understand you're at his house all the time too. You guys are almost inseparable, right? So. Yeah, but having Reese as your quarterback, that's a really nice luxury.
It's a very nice luxury.
Right.
I know that even if I'm not open, sometimes he's going to throw me open. Or, if I'm 40 yards down the field, the ball is going to be on target.
Right. And how long have you guys been developing the chemistry? Because it's way before this season, right?
Probably since the last time we played football together, which was 2 years ago. I know over the summer we would go out to the turf, run routes. He would help me with my route running, show me how to run specific routes because, football is kind of new to me, so he definitely helped me out a lot.
Right. And Coach, when you took over the program here, Reese was your quarterback,
Yep.
the 3-year starter at the position. Can you just talk about his growth and development over the 3 years and just how he handled a pretty tough job? It's not easy being a varsity high school quarterback.
Absolutely. It's not easy doing that, and it's not easy doing it while you experience the things that he's experienced. And, I've told him, when it's just been me and him, how proud I am of him and how he's handled himself and how much he's matured in 3 years. And I can say that about pretty much any guy on the team as well. But a lot of people deal with stuff when you're in high school, but this man has had to deal with a lot, and he's become a better man for it, and he has shown every opportunity he's been given, he's made the most of it. And as well as this guy sitting next to me here and the rest of the guys on the team, they bought in, played together like a team, and it's just impressive to watch.
Right. Reese, on a personal level, one of your goals this season was to earn a good college scholarship. Your sister earned an excellent scholarship at the University of Connecticut playing basketball. Yeah. You worked really hard in the off season. You put on 20 or 30 pounds of muscle. Yeah. This was one of your major goals is to get offers and to get people to look at you. What do you think your season and winning states will do for your stock in the eyes of colleges?
Have
you noticed, has there been a change already in the 3 or 4 days since?
Yeah, there's been a pretty big change. I've had a few different coaches text me that I hadn't heard from ever. So, But, I mean, the biggest thing that all the coaches stressed to me, and Coach Delauter and then another coach, Coach Ridenauer, who I lift with every day, is just, worry about winning games. College coaches, they want winners. They don't want guys with all the stats. They want guys that are leading their team to wins. And, that's what I really try to do, was try to build up the guys around me, try to be a positive leader, and everything will fall into place. And I feel like that's what's happened, and I couldn't be more happy that I had guys like Coach Delauter and Coach Ridenauer being mentors for me like that.
When you were sort of envisioning the season and kind of mapping out where you hoped it went, how close did it come in reality to meeting your expectations?
2 games off.
Really, you wanted the perfect.
That's about the only thing I could ask for.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about your defense, because in the Urbana game, Eric Kohler, the Urbana running back, had a big game against you guys. It seemed like you guys were really struggling defensively at that point of the season. Can you just comment on your defense and how much it's improved over the course of the season?
Yeah, I mean, we never were lacking talent. We were just lacking guys doing what the game plan was. And a lot of that was just having new guys in new places. We had one of our linebackers, Connor Meyer. I don't think he'd been playing linebacker since like 7th grade. So he just transferred in from another school, Good Counsel. So it was his first time being here, never really been doing that stuff. He struggled early, but, defensively, they won us games this year. There's no doubt about it. There was a few games like Seneca, down in North Carolina. They would put us in positions where we were getting the ball at the 40 or 30-yard line, and all we had to do was punch it in. So, they won us games. Yeah.
Was it just the buy-in factor? You mentioned that a couple times, Coach. You needed the guys to buy in and to really put forth their best effort. Was it as simple as that, or was it a tweak you made or anything on defense?
Yeah, no, healthiest team at the beginning of the season, and we knew that was going to be a big factor for us this year coming in, but we had to stay healthy. We got a couple guys back. That made a little bit of a difference, but really it was the buy-in factor. And, I tell these guys all the time, we don't want to be our best at week 2. We want to be our best at week 14, and that's something that they believed wholeheartedly, and they showed, and they were the best they could be at week 14.
If you have a question for one of the guys, we are taking them online, so feel free to submit them, and we will ask the guys here on Facebook Live. Wanted to ask you about a couple of your really good defensive players. Zack Brady, who was an excellent sophomore for you, first team All-County as a sophomore last year, had another awesome season. He seemed unblockable in a lot of games. He was blocking punts for you guys, recovering fumbles. Just a word about Zack and his season.
Zack's a special player. He's a wild man on the field, and he gets after it, and his drive and really the commonality between all the teammates is their competitiveness. It doesn't matter what they're playing. It could be basketball, it could be football. The other day in class we were playing a game called Ramp Shot, which is like cornhole mixed with I don't know. What do you want to describe it as? I don't know. It's a game like cornhole. Either way, it came down to the championship round, and Zack was, screaming and getting after it along with, Colby Doreen and those guys, and they just want to win so bad that it doesn't matter what it is. And when you got players who will do anything to win, that's when you're going to have great teams.
Yeah, Colby, you didn't have him for your first 3 or 4 games at least. He got hurt during a football camp over the summer. Mm-hmm. Here's another great athlete, 6'5". And he came to you and said, because he naturally projects as, a defensive end just because of his size and quickness, but he said, I'm willing to play inside, and if the team is best served to have me play inside, play D-tackle, I'll do it. And he made a huge impact there. Just a word on Colby in his season.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly right. Right when we thought he was going to be healthy enough to start competing again, our defensive ends were playing lights out, and we were kind of like, man, where we could really use him would be in the interior. And pretty much when he came up to me, I was about to have the conversation with him. Hey, this is where we're going to want you to play. And he took the words right out of my mouth. And we were on the same page. And he ended up being a big factor for us in the interior line for on the defense. And that these guys have touched on it all night. It's guys who are willing to play any position and willing to do anything to help their team win. That's when you have success.
Who are the unsung guys? The guys that do it every week that don't get a lot of press?
There are it's pretty much all 11 guys on both sides of the ball. And then we got guys in practice who are just fantastic competitors. We got a senior named Eli Berger who just shows up every day to practice, and these guys can attest to it. And he just works his tail off, and he leads the key team, and he studies the film. And guys like Eli Berger, Jacob Bolton, we got a ton of guys up front who just, they're leaders on the team because they strive to give the best look to our first team guys. And, they deserve to play and get all the recognition in the press as much as everybody else, but, they're just workhorses. And these guys do a great job in including them and being a team about that as well. But I'll tell you what, the unsung heroes on both sides of the ball are the guys up front, and really anybody else who doesn't get their name in the paper. It was all 11 guys.
Right. Who's the unsung hero of Middletown football this season, Reese?
I'm not going to point out just one guy because I don't think that'd be fair. But I'd say my offensive line because we had so many guys scoring touchdowns because we could spread the ball out that we almost had all of our receivers and running backs in the paper. But Michael Solori, Braden Hoyt, Zack Brady, Brian Atkinson, and Mason Duty. I couldn't have asked for guys that worked any harder than them. So, they're the reason for our success.
Right. Do you have a unsung hero?
Yeah, I also can't just point out one guy, but I would also just have to say, the scout team. They really pushed the starters, first team to be their best and be able to compete every single practice. It's a luxury because then we go into the game Friday or Saturday, and we're already at game speed. So, they were huge for us.
I wanted to ask you, Reese, about the Seneca Valley game because you guys had a tough second half offensively in that game. Seneca Valley, we should point out, they have very good cover team. They're very athletic, very good defensive ends. But the second half, you guys really struggled to get things going and score as much as you wanted to. Just talk about that game and sort of how you guys bounced back from that game the next week against Walkersville.
So we came out offensively pretty hot, actually. I think we scored 2 touchdowns pretty quick. But going into half, did we? I don't even think we didn't score in the second half, right?
No,
so
we
we were up 24, I think 24-6 or 24-0 at half. So we had a pretty comfortable lead, and we knew going into Walkersville we didn't want to, show them our entire playbook, basically. So I think we stayed in our same the same formation, basically the second half, and that definitely limited us. But we still had no excuse to not score. But we were kind of giving them a lot of the similar plays each possession, and they kind of started to catch on. And they were sending 7 guys blitzing, and it's hard to block 7 guys, especially when they're as athletic as those guys were. So.
Did you take them lightly at all, though? Because much like Potomac might not have thought you guys were as good as you were and athletic as you were, did you think that Seneca Valley, based on the record, was as good and athletic as they were?
Yeah. I thought it was going to be like one of those 50-0 games, and it very well could have been had we played better. But if you're going to go into a game thinking that, then it's most likely not going to happen.
Did you need a game like that to sort of grow and sort of get the nudge over the top there?
It was about the closest thing to a loss that we could have had to wake us up because offensively. Defensively, we were pretty much shutting them out the whole game.
Yeah,
but
Zach, they couldn't block Zach that whole game, Zack Brady, yeah.
But offensively, like you said, it was pretty much a wake-up call. We got to come to play if we want to win games. So.
Right. And then the next week, Brian, you have Walkersville. You just played them 2 weeks before, and you guys really have to dig deep to win that game because you got off to a lead, but they really charged at you. How were you able to pull out the Walkersville game?
Middletown, Walkersville. Yeah. It's a rivalry game. They're going to be fighting. We're going to be fighting. It's always going to be a good game. No matter what. No matter if it's home or away. No matter if they're really good or we're really good. It just came down to us just wanting it more, really. Playoff football, I know, I was looking at the guys, I'm like, we don't want to go home. We don't want this to be it. And we just played even harder and harder, and we ended up getting the job done in overtime.
Right. And how did you guys approach the following week having to go to North Carolina? That's a long bus ride. It's an undefeated team. How did you guys sort of approach that game?
We approached it the same way we would approach any other game. There was obviously the factors of, having the bus trip, playing on a wet grass field. I mean, but it's still the same as every other week. You know, we just got to execute the game plan, and hopefully we'll come out on top, and we did.
And what was the confidence level of the team going into that game, knowing you would face a undefeated opponent?
We were always pretty confident. I mean, if you don't have confidence, then that's going to affect how you play. So, I mean, records, it's just a number, you know, just like Seneca Valley. You know, we ended up being I mean, it wasn't really a close game, but it was a hard-fought game. But no matter whether you're the 1 seed and 12-0 or the 8 seed and just have 2 wins, you know, every game it's going to be a fight.
Right. And how much did the confidence rise, Reese, after you beat North Carolina and faced a similar situation against a good Elkton team?
We were super confident going in, but we'd heard the buzz about Elkton go around the state. I'm pretty sure they were like favored to win it all.
They had beaten Oakdale.
So we were very confident, but we also knew that we had to channel that confidence the right way, and preparing for the game, focus on what we had to do, because if we went in there with just confidence and thinking that we were going to beat them, then we might not have had the same outcome. But yeah, I mean, we were definitely confident going into Elkton.
Right. What's your opinion on why this group is so close, Coach Delauter?
They're very similar to the group that I had coming up. They played together pretty much their entire lives. They work really, really hard in the off season, and they're together all the time, no matter if it's in football or basketball or any other sport they're playing. And really, they want to win more than they want anything else. So when you take all those factors and put them together, I think that has success written all over it.
Has there ever been more athletic talent on a Middletown football team?
That's a great question. That's probably not, to be honest with you.
I don't remember seeing a lot of 6'5" receivers in Middletown, or 3-year starting quarterbacks that can move and throw like Reese.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, your teams weren't as physically talented, right? The teams you played on?
Yeah, I would say we had some probably bigger horses around the field, but when it comes to pure athletics, this team puts us under the rug easily.
Right, yeah, exactly. And a lot of these guys are back. Brian and Reese are seniors, but Jalen's back for 2 more years.
Yeah,
Zack
absolutely.
Brady's back. Colby is Colby a senior?
Colby's a senior.
So he was a senior.
But Gage Queen, Matt
right.
Mancini, Jason Houck, who is a fantastic receiver for us. He broke his collarbone at the third game of the season. Unfortunately, had to miss out on the rest of the year, but he'll be back next year as well. And we have, again, a ton of athletes. So. Right.
Biggest memory of the season, Reese, or biggest memories?
That's a hard one. Other than the state championship, because that's something I'll never forget for the rest of my life. But probably it wasn't even one of my plays. It was probably after I ran the touchdown in against Walkersville in overtime, and then those 4 downs against Walkersville in overtime, and then seeing JD tackle the running back, and then Husky
Jones,
and then Husky coming and cleaning it up, and then just seeing our whole town storm the field was, that's just something I'll never forget.
Right. And what was it like when they handed you the state championship trophy on Saturday? What was that moment like?
That was a top 5 moment in my entire life. Top 2 probably, but that was just, it was crazy. Right. It was surreal, honestly. It still hasn't really sank in, but it's just something that a lot of our kids say this, but it's really true. We grew up, our youth teams were always so dominant. We would win Super Bowls. I won like 4 Super Bowls in youth. Coach Delauter and them were winning state championships. We were around winning, and then as soon as I got to high school, I didn't make playoffs for 2 years. And we were just trying to get back to that, and then to just accomplish something like that with a group of guys like we did, there's really no better feeling.
How did you improve over the course of your 3 years? What were your biggest areas of improvement?
Probably just believing in Coach Delauter and Coach Ridenhour, and just getting in the weight room and developing myself athletically and strength-wise. I was very undersized my sophomore and junior year, and really limited to just throwing in the pocket. And when stuff kind of didn't work out, or they brought pressure. I wasn't elusive enough or strong enough to evade the pressure. There was a few times where I did, but nothing like I did my senior year. So it was really just getting better in the weight room, because I always felt like I had a pretty good arm, but I couldn't always show that off because I couldn't, just athletic-wise.
Were you prepared to be a varsity starting quarterback as a sophomore?
Oh, yeah. There was a lot of talk going into this season that I was going to have a chance to compete. I was never told that I was on varsity 100%, though. I always knew that I was going to have to compete. And much like this year, that team, my sophomore year, definitely had an argument to be one of the most athletic teams that we've had here at Middletown. We didn't really put it all together, but that was a 7-3 team that didn't make the playoffs. It was definitely a very good team.
You guys were, what, 7-3 and then 7-3, right?
We didn't make playoffs, so we went 7-3. We finished up 7-3.
Right, that year, and then you had a good record your junior year, too, and didn't make the playoffs. So
yep.
You said something interesting after the Seneca Valley game when you guys sort of struggled in the second half there. You said this group has never been in this situation before. This was a new experience for all of you guys being in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, that sort of manifested itself in that game, right?
Yeah. Just like I said, we did. Nobody on that team. I've been playing on the team for the longest out of like all the guys. I hadn't even played in a playoff game yet. And we weren't accustomed to playoff games. We were expecting a bunch of people to be there. I don't even think Seneca had more than 3 fans. It was a weird game. It was a weird atmosphere.
Bitterly cold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was freezing, and we were really expecting something different. So. And when it didn't turn out to be like that, I think it kind of shook us up a little bit, and we got away from Middletown football there for a game, or for a half. But we got right back to it the next week. So.
Right. Do you think that was a factor, Coach, just the first-time nature of being in the playoffs for these guys?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of factors. Like I said, I'm not making excuses at all, but, that was like a 20-degree game with a wind chill of 10 degrees or something like that. We came out really hot. I think the guys wanted to get that running clock and get out of there. And then, I can take a lot of blame for it as a coach, because I was like, all right, we're keeping our cards in our pocket here, and we'll just play the same hand over and over. And we limited ourselves, but we did that because we knew we were more than capable of coming out on top in that game, but also trying to protect our guys for future games. So to be honest with you, until I hadn't even put that thought in my mind about it being the first playoff game, to me, I just kind of approached it just like any other game.
Well, was it frustrating, Reese, not being in the playoffs the last couple of years, despite the fact you had good records? I mean, that speaks to the strength of Frederick County football, like we were talking about, right?
Oh, it was extremely frustrating, because I felt like growing up, they were expecting my teams the kids on the teams that I played for to be really good in high school, because we were some of the most dominant teams around this area in youth. And then we got to high school level, and we just couldn't put it together. It seemed like we would win the games we were supposed to win, and we barely lost the tough games. So missing playoffs was a very long off season. A lot of I don't think I did it right my sophomore year going into my junior year. With leading with the guys, getting everybody in the weight room, I didn't do my part. The coaching staff did, but we didn't have as many leaders as we did this year. And junior year going into my senior year, this year we were like, something's got to change.
So you bought in fully this offseason?
Completely.
Yeah, right.
And we were 2 to 3 days a week, 5:30 to 6. We showed up to the high school. We threw before school.
You were waking up Coach to tell you to let you in the stadium, right?
Yeah. So throwing before school. We were going as hard as we possibly could in the weight room. We didn't have a single we had this thing called 1,000-pound club at our school, which is your bench plus your squat plus your power clean. We had no members in that. And then my junior year, we added 3 this year, and we got a bunch of sophomores and juniors that just they'll get in it this year. But it was just the culture, buying in, getting everybody stronger, getting everybody faster, getting everybody on the same page. And that's just builds confidence. So
right. After the championship win on Saturday, you were wearing a Cowboy hat. and you were. It seems like you were having a lot of fun, and you were enjoying wearing the cowboy hat. Where did that come from?
Yeah. Honestly, the origin, I could not tell you.
Oh, you have to tell us if you told us.
Yeah, I really, yeah. I mean, it was just something.
If you don't want to share the story, that's fine.
It was just It was just something funny that we did coming into I think it was like week 5. We like dressed up weird to the game. It was an away game, and I wore a cowboy hat. We won. We played great. I just never took it off after that to the games. So I wore it there and back from the games, and then it really like became a thing in the playoffs because my brother would wear it on the sidelines, and so I would have it on after the game, so everybody would see me wearing it. I got a bunch of questions from reporters about it, and then it really became a thing, like in our community. Everybody was wearing cowboy hats, and then to the state championship game, I think the theme with Middletown to come to the game was to wear cowboy hats, so it was
So
funny.
it really became a thing.
Yeah, it was funny.
Yeah. Brian, what are your biggest memories of the season?
Definitely, like Reese said, stopping Walkersville at the 1-yard line in overtime, JD and Jalen making that play. And then obviously hoisting that state championship trophy. It's just everything. All my hard work, all the team's hard work, everything came to fruition, and it was just huge.
All right. Do you want to play football in college?
Yeah, I mean, I've always loved football and basketball, but right now it's looking like I'm going to play football in college.
Right. No. And what do you think this season has done for your stock personally?
It's definitely been huge. I mean, this is my first year on the scene. I had no prior film to this. I think finally, colleges are starting to take a look at me, see what I can do. It was definitely huge for me this year.
Right. Coach, your biggest moments of the season, and just what did you enjoy the most about coaching this group?
I enjoyed how much these guys wanted to win and wanted to play football, and I think I've touched on it multiple times that we've talked over the season, is just how intelligent this group is when it comes to the game. I mean,
so
Reese,
not only athletic, intelligent.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Reese would, call me Saturday or, Sunday night and or text me and say, hey, did you see them doing this? And blah, blah. And, I mean, these guys just, I would, give them our game plan on Monday, and by the time we were in the school, gave them our game plan, we went over our sheet, got out on the field, they knew it by heart. And it's fun to coach a group of guys who buy in and they want to win for each other, not just for themselves.
Right. You had your hands on that trophy as a player. What was it like when they handed it to you as a head coach?
I wanted those guys to grab it because, I mean, I'm just so incredibly proud of where they came from to where they are now, not only as players and leaders, but just as young men. I mean, just their work ethic that they've developed is going to carry them throughout the rest of their life. So.
And what sort of impact do you think this season will have on the future of Middletown football?
I think it's going to be a very, very positive impact. I know, the success that we were able to take part in when I was in school carried, for a long time in the program, and I believe this will do the same thing for our program as well.
Senior receiver Brian Walker, Coach Collin Delauter, senior quarterback Reese Poffenbarger. Guys, best of luck going forward, and thanks for coming in tonight.
Thank you.
So we should mention that we hope to do this with Catoctin High School, the 1A state champs, next week, another Facebook Live session. So be on the lookout for that. My thanks to producer Graham Collin, and for all of you for tuning in on Facebook Live. I'm Greg Swatek, and we'll see you back here next week on the Final Score podcast.